Yes, I gave you a toy. Just trying to make sure I don't hear any clicking in the background on this thing, so that way when it records, or when I'm editing it, there's not a whole bunch of clicking in the background, because I can't figure out what the freaking clicking is. It's something over here, so I'm hoping there's no clicking. I apologize if there is. I can't figure out what the clicking is. So, as you have probably guessed by the thumbnail and the title of the video, and if you know the order the Miyazaki movies come out in, and if you recognize what's on my shirt and my necklace, you will know that this is the Princess Mononoke video. Princess Mononoke came out in 1997. I believe it was dubbed into English several years later, because a bunch of these got dubbed into English when after Spirited Away came out, and Disney was like, "Oh, we're gonna try to get that," and they made the deal with Studio Ghibli to dub. I think they got the majority of the movies that were out at that point in time. I think one of the exceptions was Grave of the Fireflies, because that one I don't think was ever dubbed by Disney. That was dubbed by something else that did it when I was looking through and checking things. But Princess Mononoke was definitely one of the big ones that they wanted to make sure they got, because it was very popular. It was, I think, the year that it came out, it was the most popular or highest grossing movie in Japan, other than Titanic. So, you know, that's saying a lot. And I do have a necklace that is the little crystal dagger. Would have been nice if it was a little bit bigger, but you know, beggars can't be choosers if you can't afford the bigger pieces. Side note, when I was watching the movie, you know, there's all the white wolves in it that are Moro and her two sons that are like San's brothers. I'm just sitting there going like, I miss Rainy. I miss my Rainy boy. Not that I don't love Brenda. I love Brenda and I adore her, but I still miss Rainy. So yeah, that just made me kind of sad. But into the actual stuff about the movie. This is the 10th feature that was done by Studio Ghibli. And it did very, very well at the box office. It grossed 19.3 billion yen at the box office, breaking the Japanese cinema records at the time. I don't know where that stands in today's standings, but it's probably still very respectable. As I said, I believe that year it was only beat out by Titanic in Japan. And one of the things that I love about the movie, or trivia about the movie, is that the advertising for the movie was just the slogan used to promote the movie on the posters and everything like that was just live or ikiro, which I just thought was pretty cool, because that is kind of what the movie is about. It is about living, it is about surviving in different, you know, types of environments and stuff like that, and how life will always find a way to keep going, to paraphrase you know, Jurassic Park. Life always finds a way. So the movie itself takes place during very a kind of ancient Japan is kind of what it's supposed to be. There's no specific year, but it's set during the late Muromachi period of Japan, which I do not know where that lands in regards to like what century. I'm sorry, I didn't look that up. But it is of course based around the struggle of humanity versus supernatural guardians of the forest versus you know, those who don't want to hurt the forest versus those who need to do it to survive versus those doing it for greedy reasons, those doing it to protect others, you know, just all these different things coming together. And one of the things that is pointed out about this movie is it's very difficult to kind of point out who the actual villain of the movie is, because while everyone is in it for different reasons, you can see why they're each in it for this specific reason. certain ones are doing it to protect, certain ones are doing it to help others, certain ones are doing it for, yes, greedy purposes, but, you know, those are kind of a little bit, you know, still make the right decision in the end, mostly because your life is dependent on it. So, going into the actual movie, the main character of the movie, or one of the main characters of the movie, is a boy named Ashitaka, who is from this very, very remote village that is a group of people that are called the Amishi. And one day, when he is out and about with his red elk, Yakul, who's just so awesome, and Yakul is amazing, and hi. Yeah, you're a pretty girl. They end up encountering this demon. When the movie first opens, we actually get this beautiful view of this forest shrouded in mist, and we get the voiceover about ancient gods and beasts that inhabit this forest and everything like that, and how they all owe their allegiances to the great forest spirit, and that the ancient gods once lived harmoniously with humans, but times have changed, and the forest is disappearing, and now is the age of gods and demons. That's how the movie opens. Then we go and we are introduced to Ashitaka and Yakul and some other people from his village. We see like 3 girls from the village. One of them is named Kaya. I believe in the original Japanese, she is supposed to be his fiance, and in this one they just make her his sister, which just makes a little bit more sense. Hi, pretty girl. Ashitaka goes and he ends up having to fight against this demon that looks like all of these like weird, disgusting blackish kind of worms are all over it and are part of the demon. And Ashitaka ends up having to fight against it, and he ends up killing it with his bow and arrow. And it is revealed that during the process, he ended up getting a bunch of the black goo stuff or whatever it is on his arm. And hi, she's pushing me to make me move. And what ends up happening is it starts to infect his arm, and he gets like these looking burn marks all up and down his arm. I actually think it's his right arm that gets marked, but it's all up and down his right arm. And he does manage to kill the demon, but as the demon is dying, all of the little blackish, yucky worm things, sludged goo things disappear or start dying off themselves, and it's revealed to be this giant boar. And the people of the village come out because Ashitaka just saved their village, of course, and they come out, and the wise woman, has Kaya pour this. One of the things they do when Ashitaka first gets the burn thing on his arm, the mark on his arm, is they try rubbing dirt on it, which I'm assuming that is supposed to be like some type of a ritual type of a thing that could be done to like cleanse something, I think is what it's supposed to be referencing. And then they pour I don't know if it's supposed to be like a form of holy water or whatever, but they pour something else over his arm that is supposed to help cleanse it, but it doesn't really do much. And the wise woman comes out and she speaks to the boar god, and she's like, oh, ancient god of rage and everything, funeral rites will be performed and we will bury you, in a custom and everything like that. Please don't hate us. And he's just like disgusting humans, and then dies. Come on, up here. Up. Yes, I know. I love you too. I know. I do, but I have to talk about the forest gods and demons and all of that other stuff. Up. Oh, that works too, I guess. Hi, yeah, hi, I know. I love you too. And what ends up happening is we cut to later that night, and Ashitaka is having a meeting with the council that includes the village wise woman, and then of course all the elders of the village, and they're just discussing everything. And it is revealed that Ashitaka now has this horrible mark up and down his right arm that is a cursed mark. And the wise woman basically tells him that you must leave the village, and the only way to try to appease this is to go and find the answer to what caused this. And she shows Ashitaka that when they were going through the boar's body and burying it, they found a hunk of iron within the boar's body. And they believe that that killed him because that's a very unnatural thing to exist, because iron is something that is well, it is naturally found in nature. It is not necessarily something that would be easily transformed into something that could be a weapon without a lot of hard work going into it. And what ends up happening is she tells Ashitaka that you must go and find where this is from with eyes unclouded by hate. And Ashitaka resolves that he will go. And one of the things they have him do is he has to, all the Amishi have like their hair up in like buns, and Ashitaka cuts his off and then leaves it. And that's supposed to be a symbol of stuff. I know that there's different cultures where when someone dies, they will cut their hair. I think there's some Native American cultures where I believe that is part of it. And I know sometimes that sometimes it's also an act of disgrace against someone if they cut their hair, or it's part of a punishment or something like that, depending on the culture. Because again, depending on your culture, your hair can mean a lot, particularly back, however many hundreds of years ago. Come on up here. What are you doing? Why are you just roaming around? I can't open the door for you. Grandma's sleeping. Grandma's still sleeping, so I can't have you out there. You'll make noise. Or I'll be too loud and wake her up and you'll whine outside the door. My pretty girl, I love you. She clings to me. I know you do. Yes, you do. Brick-headed dog. And what happens is Ashitaka is told that while they can't watch him leave, and you are dead to us forever. We get this speech that kind of gives a bit of a history about his people, about the Amishi people. And it's like, we are the last of the Amishi. It's 500 years since the Emperor destroyed our tribe and drove the remnants of our people to the east. Some managed to survive here for all these years, but the blood of our tribe has grown thinner and weaker with each generation. Now our last prince must cut his hair and leave us, never to return. Sometimes I think the gods are laughing at us. And it's like, our laws forbid you from watching you go, Ashitaka. Whatever comes to pass now, you are dead to us forever. And that's just, Ashitaka is their prince. He is their last remaining prince. He may, if it is that Kaya is his sister, maybe she can carry on the bloodline, but we don't know because it's not really ever specified. We don't hear that much else about the Amishi throughout the course of the movie, but Ashitaka has to leave his village. And as he's leaving, he takes Yakul with him, and Kaya comes up and she gives him the crystal dagger as a goodbye gift, and she's like, screw the rules. I am saying goodbye to my brother / fiance / whatever it is, depending on the translation. I just go with brother because that's the one that sounds more reasonable. And she gives him the crystal dagger, which he keeps with him. And he heads off. And as he's traveling and everything like that, so many miles away, he's like following the tracks of the boar god through the forest and everything like that, because in its wake there was all of this destruction from as the different weird goo worm thingies that were on it were, as they touched things, they would, drain the life out of them. So dead grass and trees and other plants and everything like that Ashitaka is following through the forest. And, you know, he keeps going and going and going, and eventually he comes across this village that is being raided by a bunch of samurai. And the samurai spot him, and he tries to escape, but he also ends up trying to, you know, the samurai are slaughtering innocents, so it's a difference between like a battle and a slaughter, and Ashitaka kind of tries to stop them. He shoots one guy's arms just clean off, which is disturbing. And I think he also shoots off one guy's head, if I remember correctly. But so we see that, and we see him manage to escape, and he ends up in this. One of the things that happens is the reason that he's able to shoot that way is because his arm ends up actually like buffing up, and it's the curse that is activating in his arm that is, you know, kind of feeding off of his, you know, trying to feed hatred into him as he's trying to, you know, attack the samurai. And what ends up happening is after he escapes, he tries running it underwater to make it stop and everything like that, but they end up keep going. Him and Yaku keep traveling, and they end up coming to another village where he's trying to pay for rice with a piece of gold, and everybody is just like, what are you doing? The blah, 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 blah. And this monk comes over, Jigo. Short little fat monk comes over, and he ends up explaining that this nugget of gold is worth like 3 bags of rice as opposed to just, you know, 1 or whatever. And, you know, argument breaks out, and people try to follow Ashitaka so they can try to steal his gold. But, Ashitaka is just like, I am not dealing with this, and leaves. And then Jigo follows him, and then they end up making camp that night. And they have this big discussion about, Ashitaka explains why he's traveling. Jigo kind of pegs him pretty quickly that he's an Amishi because Jigo is supposed to be this monk. And I guess has a lot of knowledge about things, I guess, is what they're trying to aim at. And he figures out that Ashitaka is an Amishi because he has certain customs that he follows. He has a red elk and everything like that kind of fit with all of those legends, I guess. And him and Jigo are sitting and eating around this fire in this destroyed village. And what ends up happening is Ashitaka explains to him that the reason he's there, the reason he's traveling, is because he's trying to find where the iron ball came from that was inside the boar god. And we get this whole conversation that results in Jigo saying, I'm not surprised. Look around you. This used to be a fine village. There was a flood, maybe, or a landslide. I'm not sure. I'm sure many died. The land teems with bitter ghosts, dead from war, sick, or starved, and fallen where they stood. A curse, you say? This world is cursed. And it's this whole thing of like there's so much suffering that happens in the world that the world itself is kind of cursed at this point in time, is the way that it kind of seems to be implying. Are you being silly with your toys? Do you has toys? Ergs. Puppy girl has toy. I give it a very short time before it falls to the ground. And it fell to the ground. There you go. You has toy. And, so they end up talking and everything like that. And Jigo tells Ashitaka about this great forest that's certain ways to the north or the west or whichever way it was. And Ashitaka leaves the next morning. And he's, heading off to go, there's this kind of like, so you're under a curse? So what? So is the whole damn world, is kind of what's implied here. And Ashitaka heads out, and he makes his way through the, further and further and further away, and eventually does end up finding himself close to the forest of the gods. And then we cut to this group that is on this mountainside on a rainy night. I believe it's a rainy night. And it is all of these cattle drivers, all these oxen drivers that are carrying rice to get it back to this village. And their leader is Lady Eboshi, and her second, her first lieutenant, Gonza. And we see that they have very rudimentary forms of rifles that are more like they're more advanced than just like setting off like a bunch of like fireworks in certain areas. They do set off, or they do launch the bullets, the iron balls, um, but they're a very more rudimentary version of like a rifle. um, they're just called riflemen, and they're protecting all of these different the oxen drivers that are moving all of this rice back to this town that they are trying to get home to. And Lady Eboshi is the leader of all of this group, and they end up getting attacked by these two giant white wolves and this masked girl, and they end up just like killing a bunch of them, knocking a bunch of them over the cliff and everything like that. And then we have this even more giant, even this larger wolf comes out that is, her name is Moro, and she is the mother of these wolves and of the girl. And she shows up, and she ends up getting shot by Lady Eboshi and falling off the cliff as well. And they fall into the and she falls into the water. And then the caravan keeps moving, and they're heading their way back to where their home is. It is a place called Irontown, which I'll get to, and they're heading that way. Meanwhile, or a little bit later, what ends up happening is Ashitaka and Yakul are traveling by this river, and they come across one of the, I believe it's supposed to be one of the riflemen who ended up falling off the cliff, and Ashitaka drags him out of the river, and he's still alive. And then he finds another man in the river that he drags up onto shore and sets aside. And then he ends up going, and he sees Moro has washed up on the shore on the other side of the river. And she is found by the other two wolves and San, who is the human girl that is with them. And we watch as San San is dressed in this long, probably a type of a wolf's fur that is on her back, and she has this mask that she will wear, and she carries a spear and everything. And Moro got shot with one of the bullets, and San is trying to clean out the wound, and that results in her just getting blood smeared all over her face. Not that she cares. And Ashitaka kind of like introduces himself and asks if he's in the forest of the gods. And San just looks at him and goes, "Go away," as they leave. It's just kind of funny. And then Ashitaka comes back over, and he finds one of the guys that he dragged out of the river is kind of like screaming in terror. And like this guy's, A, his arm is broken. B, I think one of his legs is broken. And he's just trying to scoot away because he sees this little tiny, I think it's called a kudama, that is just sitting on this log that is just like staring at him. And these kudama are adorable. The kudama are just adorable little things. I love them, and I want one that would just be like a little bobblehead for the car. That would be adorable and a perfect product placement. They're little tiny representations of like forest spirits, like little guides that can lead you through the forest to a degree. I was trying to remember if we see anything like them in Spirited Away, but I could be wrong. I don't think we do. I don't think we see them in Spirited Away. But what ends up happening is Ashitaka ends up asking the little Kudama to lead them through the forest so they can, get to the other side. And he treats the two men, one of them is called Kuroko. He's the one that has like this broken arm and everything. And he rides Yakul while Ashitaka carries the other man. And they're going through the forest and everything, being led by the Kudama. The Kudama are kind of like teasing Ashitaka because like they're kind of like giving piggybacks to each other the way that he's, giving a piggyback to the guy that he's carrying that's injured. Which is just kind of funny, but they do lead them through the forest. And what ends up happening is they end up coming to this huge pool of water with like little bitty islands all around it and everything like that, and butterflies and all this other stuff. And Ashitaka is having them all rest there and everything like that. And what ends up happening is, as Ashitaka is looking around, he ends up sensing something and looking through the trees, and he sees this giant deer with the face of a human and like these magnificent antlers, and it causes the curse in his arm to act up, and he has to plunge it into the water to make it calm down so he doesn't end up accidentally hurting anyone. And he's figured out that, okay, that's something important that I need to be wary of. And at one point, Kuroko is kind of an idiot, but what ends up happening is both Ashitaka and Kuroko end up feeling a little bit better. And Kuroko's like, I feel better. Oh, nope, my arm's still broken. Never mind. Kuroko is just there for humor purposes. And they end up, making their way out of the forest and finding their way to what would be Irontown. We cut to Irontown, where we are a little more introduced to this place that is run by Lady Eboshi, and she has all of these different she has the riflemen that work for her, but she also has all of the different men that work in the village and everything like that, and that help harvest the iron that they then use to harvest the iron, or that they then use to make the iron. And we see the giant the bellows that they keep pumping to keep the fire burning so they can burn the iron and everything like that, so they can melt the iron and everything. When Kuroko and Ashitaka show up, everybody is just amazed that they managed to survive. And his wife is happy to see them, but then she just like berates him for the fact that he's still injured and how's he supposed to, drive the oxen now, and everything like that. And he's just like, she loves him, but he is an idiot, and it's adorable. I love their little marriage. And Toki is his wife's name, and she is not afraid of anybody. She stands up to Gonza, who is Lady Eboshi's lieutenant, kind of like the second in command of the village, and she chews him out at times throughout the course of the movie, which is just adorable. She's like, I'm not taking any of your crap. And everyone is just amazed by Ashitaka, and they're just very wary of him as well, or some of them are very wary of him as well. Gonza is, but Lady Eboshi thanks him and, asks, well, I would like to show you around Irontown and everything like that. And Ashitaka ends up going and having a meal with a bunch of the men from Irontown in their kind of bar area setup. And we end up finding out that a bunch of the women, or the majority of the women that are in the town, are actually former prostitutes and barmaids and such like that, who Lady Eboshi went and bought up their different contracts from the different places where they would have worked, and brought them to Irontown, and they're the ones that work the bellows, day in and day out, to keep the town going and everything like that, so they can make the iron. And some of the men in the village don't particularly like that the women are from those checkered types of pasts, but they're just like, Lady Eboshi is just so good and kind-hearted and everything like that. And we end up getting this story about how Irontown came to be, and that it ends up being explained to them that before Lady Eboshi came about, they had already dug up all the iron underneath Irontown, and they needed more iron, so they went and tried to dig up parts of the forest that were around them so they could get to the iron there. But Nago, who was the boar god at the time, that ends up being the boar god that Ashitaka killed at the beginning of the movie, who had the iron ball inside of him, the iron bullet inside of him, was the guardian of the forest, and he didn't like that. And him and his clan tried to, fight against the humans and everything, and caused a lot of damage. And then Lady Eboshi shows up with her riflemen, and she manages to wound Naga and make it that they can actually start harvesting the iron underneath underneath this part of the forest and everything like that, which involves, deforestation and causing a bunch of damage to the earth in that regard, so they can make the iron that is needed to help fund Irontown. And so the people within the village are very much indebted to Lady Eboshi, and it's not like she's cruel to them or anything like that. She tries to do what she can to protect their men and everything like that when they're driving the oxen to bring the rice back to their village after they go and sell the iron. She keeps, all the women safe and everything like that, and they're not bothered by the men unless they want to be, as it's stated later on in the movie. But so we're getting a lot of that. And we see, again, it's like the people there are not necessarily bad. They are trying to provide for themselves and for their town and for each other and protect each other. And unfortunately, that does involve them having to dig up trees and cause problems in that regard. And that is what makes the animals of the forest so angry. That's what made Nago angry. That's what made Moro and her wolves angry. We see later it's what makes these other boars angry. It's what makes, all of these different ancient gods angry, because their forest is being attacked, which is fair because it's their home, and it also weakens the forest. And if the forest grows smaller, then they grow stupid and they just become more like regular animals. Ashitaka is eventually taken to where he gets to talk with Lady Eboshi, and we see her inspecting all this iron that has to go out so it's ready for the next shipment and everything like that. And he ends up showing her the iron ball that she explains is a bullet from their guns, from their rifles and everything. And she even outright says, yes, I'm the one that shot Nago. And his arm actually kind of like agitates itself at that point in time, because it knows that this is the one that caused the curse that was on Nago that made him turn into a demon and everything. So we see that. And she also asks Ashitaka why he's there, and he explains that I am here to see with eyes unclouded by hate. And she just kind of laughs at that and everything, and she just shows him everything. She shows him the bellow works and everything like that. She takes him into her private garden area where her home is, where she shows that she has all of these lepers that serve as her gunsmiths. And again, it's like, well, Lady Eboshi may seem a bit cruel in the fact that she is, trying to kind of destroy the gods in the forest, she's also protecting the women and the men in the village. She's protecting these lepers. It's explained by the lepers, not the leopards, the lepers, that Lady Eboshi, she's the one that tended to their wounds and washed them and wrapped them and has given them this place to live where they are safe and where they are not necessarily ostracized because of what they are. And everything. So we see them doing that. We also see that they are the ones making the rifles and the guns and everything like that that Lady Eboshi and her riflemen use. And we also see that they're developing, smaller, lighter types of rifles that are designed so that way the women can use them, as opposed to just the riflemen or just the men. And, so we get kind of this different perspective on Lady Eboshi, that she's not cruel for no reason. She's trying to protect her town and protect the lepers and protect the people in her town and everything like that. Not just out of animosity toward the forest. So it's like this whole thing. It's like, it's not really exactly clear who the actual villain is. It's just people coming at it from different directions. Which is kind of one of the things that the movie is about. And while all of this is happening and she's talking to Ashitaka, his arm actually reaches over and tries to draw the sword that he carries with him to try to attack her, and Ashitaka has to fight against it. And then we have this elderly leper that explains to Ashitaka how Lady Eboshi is the one who took pity on the lepers and cared for them and gave them shelter and everything like that. When no one else in the world would, because they just looked at them as disgusting, cursed things. And, so we get some of that. We also see as Lady Eboshi fires one of the rifles over onto the mountainside or the cliffside, where we see all these apes trying to plant trees and everything like that. So yeah, there's a lot that happens there. And Ashitaka leaves, and he ends up finding his way into the bellow works, where he sees all of the women are working. Before that, while he was still talking to Lady Eboshi, she explains that her intention is to reduce all of the animals in the forest to lumbering beasts, all of the gods in the forest into lumbering beasts, and so that way Princess Mononoke will become human again. Princess Mononoke, or Princess of the Monsters, is supposed to be San. They believe that San was somewhat captured by the beasts at one point and was turned into this creature, that she's not just there for her own free will type of a thing, which we'll get to San's perspective in a little bit. But we're kind of seeing some of that. A good chunk of the movie is done through Ashitaka's point of view, which I enjoy, and we cut away a little bit at times. But it's mostly through Ashitaka's point of view. And as I said, Ashitaka makes his way to the bellows, where he sees that it is the women who are working the bellows and everything like that. And he, talks to a bunch of them, and, he tries out the bellows and everything like that. And he, is very, admits, this must be very hard work. And Toki's like, yeah, our shifts are 3 days long. So, we're kind of going off, getting a little bit of it's much better than what they were doing in their lives. This way they're actually trying to make an honest living and everything like that. And we see how much loyalty the women in the town have to Lady Eboshi. And also, to each other and everything like that, and how much the men in the town how much respect they have for Lady Eboshi as well. We kind of see that. And then we get to where San ends up attacking. So San and her two brothers, her brother wolves, end up approaching Irontown, and they end up, San ends up making her way inside through kind of like a stealth-ish attack, where she manages to get over the walls and ends up trying to fight her way through the village. And while this is going on, the village is going into, kind of red alert mode, where they're just like, oh, the wolf girl's here and everything like that. And, Toki and the rest of the women are there trying to, or a bunch of the women are there ready to protect the ironworks, and Lady Eboshi and a bunch of the others are trying to track down San so they can try to, stop her or whatever. Ashitaka is kind of watching all of this, and he, doesn't want them to fight each other, because that's not going to help anything. Them fighting each other and trying to kill each other is not going to make either of the problems go away. It's just going to cause more hate. And we also have this moment where Lady Eboshi has two women who, because of San's actions, their husbands are dead. And she has them have rifles that she has pointed at them, that they have pointed at San, and they end up trying to shoot San, and San falls off the roof, and blah 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 blah. And Ashitaka, there's a bunch of stuff that happens at once. One of the things that happens is San ends up fighting against, first Ashitaka tries to help her after she falls off the roof because he thinks she's hurt, and then she attacks him, and then she knocks him aside, and she goes and fights against Lady Eboshi. So we get this nice little fight there with them. And then Ashitaka stands up, and he's making his way toward Lady Eboshi. And while this is happening, so many of the people in the village are watching this, or a good chunk of the village is watching this, and they think that Ashitaka is actually on San's side, on the wolf's side. And he makes his way to where San and Lady Eboshi are fighting, and we actually see that over his arm we see these ghost, kind of the weird worm type slime thing, tentacle things that were coming off of Nago when he was the demon. And we see them coming off of Ashitaka's arm in a ghost type form. And he makes his way to where Lady Eboshi and San are fighting, and he's pulling them apart, and he's shouting at the crowd, "This is what hate looks like. It's eating me alive, and soon it will kill me. Fear and anger only make it grow faster." And he ends up, Lady Eboshi is like, "Why don't I just cut the damn thing off?" is one thing that she says. And then Ashitaka just ends up knocking them both out. I think he like elbows one of them in the gut, and then the other one he like hits in the gut with like the back of his sword, with the blunt of his sword. So it's not actually going to cause a whole lot of damage, but it's enough to knock them out. And not actually cause any huge amount of physical damage to them or anything like that. They might have a bruise, but they're not going to be dead. And it's not going to be too much major damage to them. And he hands Lady Eboshi off to the women of the village, and then he carries San out of the village. One of the women ended up actually shooting him, kind of on accident a little bit, but she was intending to threaten him, and then she ended up lighting the flint anyway, and ended up shooting Ashitaka through the chest, or through like the lower area down here. So, and he's just like walking through the village, now shot, carrying a knocked out San on his back as he's making his way through. And he's just calmly walking through. He walks by the ironworks where Toki sees this, and he makes his way to the gate. And they're trying to, and he's trying to open the gate, forcibly open the gate. And he's got, Yakul following him and everything like that. And he ends up, they're like, sir, it takes like 10 men to open that gate. Please stop. You're going to hurt yourself. And Ashitaka just keeps pushing, and he manages to open the gate. Now, whether this is because of his personal strength or this is something being enhanced by the curse, I'm not sure, or a combination of the two. But he opens the gate, and as he's opening the gate, the two wolves come running over, and he's like, I have your wolf girl. I'll return her to you. I'm bringing her to you, type of thing. And he leaves after saying thanks to the townspeople, and he heads out. While he gets on Yakul, and they're riding up the mountain alongside the wolves, San wakes up, and she knocks Ashitaka off of Yakul, and then we get the moment where the wolves try to bite him, and she's like, no, stop, he's mine. And we have this moment where San is like, why wouldn't you let me kill that gun woman? Why won't you let me just cut her head off? And he's like, because they would have killed you too. And she's like, do you think I'm afraid of dying? And it results in the whole scene where she flips him over, and she has his own sword pointed at his neck, and she's looking down at him, and she's like, what is stopping me from killing you now? And he just looks up at her, and he calls her beautiful, which she is not used to. Because of course, with San, she's raised with the wolves, and by human standards, yes, she's beautiful, but she has looked at her mother and her brothers all of her life, and she's like, I don't match them. I'm not wolves like they are, type of a thing. And she's never felt beautiful in her life. So that's kind of like what's going on there, why that throws her off. And then they end up getting an interaction with the apes, with the ape clan, who show up, and they try to get San to hand over Ashitaka, because they say that they want to eat Ashitaka so they can become strong enough to stop the humans and protect the forest. San points out that that is a horrible idea, that you can't actually gain strength that way, and that if you tried, you would turn into something much worse than a human. You would turn into something even worse than a demon. Which I know in a lot of different cultures, that, the thought of like, oh, if I eat this animal, I will gain that animal's strength, or whatever the case may be. I know that was how it was in a lot of different cultures for a good chunk of history. And then after a while, it's just like, no, that's probably not the best idea, type thing. So there's a lot of that there. But they end up, the ape clan ends up leaving, and San has decided that she is going to help Ashitaka. It's like, well, he did save my life, and he is dying, and I guess I do kind of owe him for that. And she sends off her brothers, and her and Yakul carry Ashitaka all the way into the domain of the forest spirit. Dominion of the forest spirit, which is the giant lake area that Ashitaka and Yakul and Kuroku and the other man visited earlier on that day, or days ago, or whatever. And they make their way in there, and she carries Ashitaka through the water, and places him on this island that's in the middle, and she leaves like this little tiny, this like branch sapling thing that she sticks next to him on the island. And she removes Yakul's harness, bridle thing, so that way, and she's like, there, you're free. You can go wherever you want now. And Yakul does not leave because he is very, very loyal to Ashitaka. And Ashitaka has done nothing but take good care of him, so we have that. And we watch as all of the Kudama head up to the top of the trees, where they end up watching as the Nightwalker appears. And this is the two-legged form of the forest spirit at night. And it has returned from, I guess, roaming around and gathering up the souls of the dead, that, you know, the souls that have passed during the night or so. And it returns to the forest and, you know, turns itself back into, you know, the you know, giant deer with the huge antlers and the human face and everything. And it makes its way over to where Ashitaka is by the island. And San does not know if the forest spirit will actually heal Ashitaka or if it will just allow him to die. But it, you know, it does heal him. It does, you know, deem Ashitaka worthy of healing and everything. We also cut to where we see Jigo is watching the Nightwalkers show up, and him and a bunch of other, and some of his other hunters are dressed in these bear skins. And they explain the reasoning that they're there is that the Emperor has promised a mountain of gold to any man that can help him live forever. You know, they also have this sign thing from the Emperor that gives them permission to kill and hunt and kill the forest spirit, which I'm like, yeah, no offense to your Emperor, I don't think he has the authority to be able to say, yeah, no, you can go and kill this forest spirit. That's fine. Go and kill this god. I wish to live forever. You know, so we have that. So that's set up for Jigo's motivation. And then we have it that Ashitaka goes to, or Ashitaka kind of has this short dream where he dreams about the deer god and everything like that and everything. We also have it that Jigo and his group spot this other giant boar god show up, who is called Lord Koto, and his clan are showing up to the forest as well. And so this giant white boar god, they're showing up in the forest as well and making their way to the domain of the forest spirit. And we cut back to the next day where Ashitaka has woken up and he is healed and everything. And he's not fully healed. I mean, like, his curse is still there, but like the bullet wound was healed. And San explains that, you know, Yakul never left his side and everything, and how Yakul has been, you know, telling her about the forest where Ashitaka came from and his people and everything like that. And we have to have it that to show this, like, I guess, bonding moment, they have it that Ashitaka can't really chew very well, so San has to do the whole mama baby bird thing, which is kind of disgusting, but okay. And then the boars show up, and what ends up happening is Moro is there as well with her two sons, or she shows up first, and then the boars arrive. And the boars are angry that there is a human in the forest, and they're angry even more that it's the human that killed Nago, because Ashitaka admits this. And, you know, they're also angry that Ashitaka was healed by the forest spirit, even though the forest spirit did not heal Nago. And, you know, Moro has also been shot and has the bullet inside of her, and yet the forest spirit won't heal her. And so the boars are very angry about this, and Moro is just, it seems to be a little bit more reasonable at this point. She's like, the forest spirit has his reasons for why he does this. He won't heal me, but he healed partly, you know, he healed the human of the bullet wound. And Ashitaka shows Okoto, the boar god, shows him. Ashitaka shows him his arm. Well, Okoto is blind, so he allows, you know, Ashitaka allows him to, like, sniff his arm to hear to see, or to understand that he has this curse on him, and he explains to them what had happened and everything. And Okoto is like, well, I am sorry that a demon like that came from our clan, and I appreciate you for, you know, ending his suffering and everything like that. And he was like, I believe you and everything like that. But he also tells Ashitaka that it's like, should I see you again, I will kill you. It's like, okay, thanks for the warning, I guess. I don't really want to die, but okay. And what ends up happening is, you know, Okoto and Moro are discussing the fact that they do intend to try to fight against the humans, and Moro is trying to be like, you can't do that, they'll just shoot you and everything like that, and they'll kill your men. They'll kill your warriors and everything. But they're planning to fight the humans. And, you know, so the boars leave. And what ends up happening is this then leads to where we cut back to Irontown, where we find out that Irontown is being attacked by Lord Asano, who is just this other samurai person, whatever, this other lord who wants to try to take over the iron-rich, you know, the ore-rich lands of Irontown and everything, take them from Lady Eboshi and everything. And we see that the town is being, you know, protected by the riflemen, but also by a bunch of the women and stuff like that are protecting their town and everything. And firing at the samurai, and eventually we also see that Jigo and Lady Eboshi have this connection, that they are acquainted with each other. Friends is definitely not the word I would use, but they are acquainted with each other. And so they're, you know, talking and everything. And we find out that Jigo is the one that actually supplied Lady Eboshi with her riflemen. So we're getting that connection there. And, you know, what ends up happening is, you know, they make their way back to the village. And at one point we have it where, like, Lord Asano's samurai try to offer a peace treaty or something like that. And the women are like, why would we do that? And they're just like, and the other one is just like, the man that shows up, it's just like, show respect. And it's just like, why should we show respect to him? We haven't been showed respect since the day we were born. And everything like that. So again, I love the women in Irontown. They're awesome. But we have it that Jigo and Lady Eboshi are talking, and he ends up showing her the request from the Emperor himself, or the permission from the Emperor himself, that is, you know, this pardon for, you know, for, you know, if they kill the forest spirit, then, you know, they get this pardon. And she shows it to some of the women, and they're just like, do you know what this is? It's from the Emperor. And they're like, who's that? Is he supposed to be important? And I'm like, type of a thing. So that's just funny. And Jigo's intention is he has been using this permission from, you know, from the Emperor in order to gather up a bunch of the best hunters in the land and everything like that, so that way he can have them help with trying to kill the forest spirit and everything. And we find out that he made a deal with Lady Eboshi that she would kill the forest spirit for him. And of course, she, you know, he's come to collect on that debt. And so that's their intention, is to, you know, go and head off to get ready to try to, you know, prepare to go and try to fight the forest spirit and everything. And Jigo ends up asking Lady Eboshi if a young man riding an elk came through there, and she's like, yep, came and went and everything. And they're all heading out, or they're all getting ready to head out and everything like that. They're preparing for battle, basically. And a bunch of the women are not happy about this, because they don't trust the riflemen necessarily, because their allegiances is more to Jigo than to Lady Eboshi and everything like that. Gonza's allegiance is to Lady Eboshi and to Irontown. He is very much her. I don't know if in love with her is the best way to put it, but he's very, very loyal to her. But the riflemen are a little bit iffy on that. And of course, the women and the men from Irontown are very loyal to Lady Eboshi as well. And we get some other snappy back and forth between Toki and Gonza, which is just kind of funny. Then we cut back to within the forest. We cut to Moro's cave, high above the trees, where Ashitaka, awakes and he is laying next to San, and that is he goes out and he ends up talking with Moro, and she explains that San has been nursing Ashitaka back to health and everything like that. And that she even suggests, hey, do you want to jump to end your pain? Or I don't know if that's exactly what it is, but it's like there's like 2 moments where she's like, yeah, if you had been yelling in your sleep, I would have bitten your head off already and ended it. It's like, okay, thanks for not doing that. But so it's supposed to be that Ashitaka is getting better and everything. And so they have this whole chat, and part of it ends up being where Moro explains how she got San as her daughter, and it's explained that when San was a baby, Moro found San's parents defiling her forest, and they threw San at her feet, and Moro ended up keeping San and raising her as her own. And now San is not fully anything. She's not fully human. She's not fully wolf. She's not fully from the forest. She's not fully this or fully that. And she's like, my ugly, beautiful human daughter. And Moro loves San just as much as she loves her 2 other wolf pups, and the 2 San's brothers love, her very, very much as well. So they do not see a problem with San being human necessarily, because she has been raised to be their sister. Kind of like how like Tarzan is raised with the apes in Tarzan, and how Mowgli is raised by the wolves and in the jungle in the Jungle Book and everything like that. So that kind of an idea there is how that works, where they are accepted by those who are around them for the most part, but not everybody will always accept them. Their family accepts them, but not everybody else in the forest or in the jungle or whatever will always accept them. And so we end up, getting that backstory there. And we find out that the boars are getting ready for war. And, they're getting ready to fight against the humans and everything like that to protect their forest and everything. And Ashitaka isn't, he's like, I don't understand, he understands why the people in Irontown want to keep their town going, and why and why Moro and San want to protect the forest and the forest spirit and everything like that. But Ashitaka just wants to try to find a way to make things better so they can all, live better and in harmony and everything like that. There's also this moment where Moro tells Ashitaka that he will leave by dawn, and if he ever comes back, she will kill him. I'm like, forest spirits or forest gods are very very finicky. It's like, oh, okay, well, I won't kill you now, but if you come back, I will. It's like, okay, can we not get killed? Can I not get killed for more than 5 minutes in this forest? When they get back inside, when Ashitaka gets back inside, him and San talk a little bit, because she kind of woke up, and then they talk a little bit, and then they both go back to sleep. And the next morning, one of the wolves leads Ashitaka and Yakul out of the woods and back to out of the forest, and back to kind of an abandoned lake bed or whatever, so they can keep going. And Ashitaka ends up taking off the crystal dagger, and he tosses it to the wolf and said, please give this to San. And while all of this is happening, Lady Eboshi's men are getting ready to fight, the riflemen and everything like that with Chigo and all of that are getting ready to fight. The women have been left in charge of Irontown to defend it against Lord Asano's samurai. And then we also have it that the boars are getting ready for battle, and they are painting themselves with, mud and everything like that. So they're like, war paint type thing. And San and Moro are like looking out at what's happening and everything like that. And the humans are, burning certain chemicals to make it so it's harder for, the animals to smell and everything like that, and makes it, sting their eyes and everything like that. And so it's all of these different battle techniques coming in from the human side and everything like that to anger the wolves and to anger the boars. Um, and what ends up happening is, the other wolf shows back up after escorting Ashitaka and gives San the necklace, which she's just like pretty, and then she puts it on and everything, and then her and the two young wolves head off to go and fight alongside. Get ready to go and head off to fight alongside Lord Okoto. But before that happens, Moro points out to San that boy wanted to share his life with you, and that just makes San, very angry. And she's explaining, like, I hate all humans. I don't care. I'm a wolf. I'm like you. I'm your daughter. The forest is my home, type of a thing, and all of that. So we have like that, conflicting thing there, where San does want to go with Ashitaka and she wants to be with him, but she also wants to protect her forest and everything like that because that's her home, and she doesn't want to abandon her mother and her brothers because they are the only family that she has ever known. So we have that going on. And then we cut to, San and the two wolf brothers head off, and then Moro makes her way back to the forest spirits pond area, his glen area, whatever. Heads back there so she can conserve her strength. And San and her brothers go to fight alongside the boars and everything like that. So we get to that, and eventually Ashitaka makes his way to where Irontown is, and he has to get past several of the samurai and all of that stuff. And manages to get to Irontown, and Toki and the lepers and a bunch of the wounded, and the women and everything like that, and the other wounded are still inside Irontown, and they're yelling down at Ashitaka, who like swam across to like get to where he could talk to them, and he gets his bow and arrows back and everything like that from Kuroku and all of that. And so they're like, well, we need to get a message to Lady Eboshi and everything like that, and that they explain to Ashitaka that Lady Eboshi is in the forest and everything like that, off to try to kill the forest spirit and everything like that. And so Ashitaka and Yakul start trying to make their way to the forest again that they just left. And they start trying to make their way into the forest, and they have to get past the samurai again. Unfortunately, Yakul ends up getting shot in the leg. But we have this, cool moment where Ashitaka is like fighting against the samurai while riding on Yakul and, firing arrows and, knocking away their arrows with his sword and everything like that. But Yakul gets shot in one of his hind legs and everything like that. And Ashitaka tries to tell him to stay, but Yakul just keeps following him. Because Yakul's like, I'm not staying here. Those samurais are going to kill me. Didn't you see what they just tried to do to me? I'm not staying here. So they're making their way through the forest and everything like that. And they end up finding a bunch of... they find the battlefield where Lady Eboshi's men, along with Jigo's mercenaries, have been... where the battle had taken place, and we see all of the dead bodies of not just a bunch of the men from Irontown, but also a bunch of the boars and everything like that from the Okoto's clan. And we end up finding out that we kind of get like a replay of the battle where it is explained from the point of view of one of the men who is just sitting there shivering and everything like that. They're just like shell-shocked for all intents and purposes, for a good way of putting it. And where they are, it's explained to Ashitaka because he's asking if they saw any wolves in the battle, and they're like, yeah, I saw the girl with the wolves and everything like that. And we get the kind of the flashback of what happened with the battle, that it was they had planted landmines underneath the feet of the men, and that the riflemen had that the mercenaries had planted landmines underneath the battlefield, and they did not tell Lady Eboshi's men this. And so when the landmines went off, not only were they hurt, but the boars were hurt and everything like that, and they would drop grenades and everything like that. onto them, and not with very little care as to what would happen to the men from Irontown. And so we're having all of that happening, and they say, yes, I saw the wolf girl and everything like that during the battle and all of that. So we're getting a bunch of that explained to us, and Ashitaka tells them that, well, the Irontown is under attack, your home is under attack, and what matters more to you, defending your home or trying to kill the forest spirit? And the men are like, well, we need to go back to our home. And the mercenaries are like, yeah, no, that's not happening. You're going to go back to burying all the dead bodies because we don't want to do that. And they end up actually, one of the San's brother wolves, the two brother wolves never get names. That just makes me kind of sad, but they never get names. Ends up trying to, he's pinned under a bunch of the dead boars, and Ashitaka tries to free him. And what ends up happening is the mercenaries try to subdue Ashitaka with poison darts, which then just basically makes the ironworkers revolt, and they bash the mercenaries on the head to knock them out. And they help Ashitaka get the wolf out from underneath the boars, and because Ashitaka is like, well, this boar can lead me to San, this wolf can lead me to San, and then that will lead me to where Lady Eboshi is, and then I can give Lady Eboshi my message that Irontown is in trouble. And that she needs to return to Irontown, that her and her men the rest of her men need to return to Irontown as soon as possible. So we have that happening, and we have this little thing where Yakul and the wolf kind of are, I guess, kind of like, oh yeah, no, I remember you. I guess they're friends now, I guess, is what it's implied, that the wolves and Yakul are friends. Because earlier on, one of the wolves is just like, can we eat the elk? And San's like, no, you may not. Type of thing. So we get that. And Ashitaka and the wolf head off, and the men are going to head back to Irontown from the other side of the lake or whatever, so they can get to Irontown and, help them. When we get into the forest, we see Jigo and Lady Eboshi and the Iron Men, or not the Iron Men, the Iron Men. Yeah, Tony Stark is here. No, it's like, is there any voice in this movie that's part of the MCU? And I'm like, I don't think so. Running through my head, no, I don't think so. But Jigo and Lady Eboshi and the Riflemen are making their way through the forest, and Jigo is getting updates from the other hunters that he has in the forest and everything like that. And Lady Eboshi notes that the men have boar's blood or bear's blood or whatever smeared on them to cover their scent. And they're tracking where San is with Lord Okoto and everything like that, and that their intention is to try to get Lord Okoto and San to lead them to the pool of the forest spirit. Which, admittedly, good idea. I'll give them that. It's a good idea. So they're trying to make their way there. And while this is happening, I'm trying to remember what order this stuff happens in. So while they are still traveling, they end up, we cut to where we see San and Okoto and the other brother wolf, who has blood all over him, but I don't know if it's his blood or someone else's blood, but Lord Okoto is covered in blood as well. And they are trying to San is trying to lead him through the forest. As I mentioned before, Lord Okoto was blind, so San is trying to help him with this. And they end up getting kind of attacked by the ape clan that say bad thing is coming, neither human nor animal. And she's like, what do you mean by that there's this terrible thing headed for the forest, or there's this terrible thing in the forest and it's been brought there or whatever like that. They're trying to get San to stop. And San is trying to keep leading Okoto, and what ends up happening is out of the forest come what look like the boars, but it's not actually the boars, it's the human hunters wearing the boar's skin over them and trying to trick Lord Okoto into leading them to where the forest spirit is. While all of this is happening, Lord Akoto begins to turn into a demon, where all of the thing that happened with is happening with Ashitaka, but happened with Nago at the beginning of the movie, where they have all of the reddish, blood red tentacle worm goo things that start coming off of him. And San is trying to get them off of him, and it's not working, and San gets knocked out and ends up getting trapped within the goo and everything like that on Akoto as he's being turned into a demon, and is being tricked by the humans wearing the boar's skin into leading them to the domain of the forest spirit. So that's happening. And while this is also happening, Ashitaka has made his way to, has managed to find Lady Eboshi, and ends up delivering the message that Irontown is in trouble, that it's being attacked by Lord Asano and everything like that, and that Lady Eboshi needs to return, and that her men from Irontown have already been told, and that they're going to make their way back to Irontown as well, and everything. So we have that happening. And Ashitaka and the wolf then head off further into the forest, where we're having the wolf that's with Ashitaka and the other wolf keep howling back and forth at each other to inform each other what's going on, so they can make their way to where the forest spirit is, or to the domain of the forest spirit. And so they're trying to make their way there. And as I said, at this point, Lord Akoto has been turned into a demon, or is turning into a demon that is just possessed by rage and everything like that, like what happened with Nago at the beginning of the movie. And San is now kind of trapped within that, and she's just like screaming, I don't want to become a demon, I don't want this. And Ashitaka has a strong enough connection to San that he can kind of hear her screaming. And Ashitaka and his wolf reach the pool first. And, by the way, Lady Eboshi is not heading back. She should, but she's not heading back. She and Jigo are still making their way through the forest to get to where the forest spirit is and everything like that. And it's, killing a god is dangerous business, and Jigo is happy to let someone else do it for him. So Ashitaka makes it to the forest, the forest spirit's pool, where Moro is, she's dying at the water's edge. She does not have a whole lot of strength left, but also Akoto shows up. The demon Akoto shows up, followed by a bunch of the boar-skinned hunters. And Ashitaka points out the fact that if they try to attack him, the forest spirit will never come. And Ashitaka is trying to get to San, who he figures out is, struggling on Akoto's snout, and he's trying to drag her out of the demon tendrils and everything like that. Tendrils, that's a better word than tentacles or worms that I had earlier, but tendrils, yes, and he's trying to drag her out of that. And he manages to get to her, and he almost manages to get her off, but he gets thrown off by Akoto and lands in the water. And Moro is just like, okay, I was trying to save my strength to bite off that gun woman's head, but I have to save San instead. And she stands up out of the water, and she grabs, gets close enough to Lord Akoto. She tells her sons not to touch Lord Akoto because he's just possessed by a demon. He's just turning into a demon, becomes nothing but a mindless beast at that point in time. And she snaps her jaw down on where San is, and she pulls San off as this is happening. And Ashitaka has fallen into the water at this point in time. And we have several things happening at the same time, because Lady Eboshi and Jigo have found their way to the pool. Moro is trying to free San, and Moro says, Ashitaka, will you save the girl you love? And Ashitaka manages to, swim up out of the water. And while this is happening, the forest spirit is walking across the frickin' lake. And Lady Eboshi ends up shooting the shooting it kind of like through its neck area, but that doesn't do a huge amount of damage. It kind of makes it stop and like kind of sink into the water a little bit, and then it like clears itself up and like steps back onto the water and keeps going across the lake, where it makes its way to where Moro and Okoto are. And Moro has pulled San off, and Ashitaka has climbed his way out of the water and grabbed San from Moro and has brought her into the water, because going into the water kind of helps stop to a degree the demon tendrils, kind of causes them to stop, to slow down or stop or whatever, so they can at least get them off. And while this is happening, Eboshi and Jigo are watching this happen, and the forest spirit just kind of looks at Okoto and just kind of kisses him on his nose, and like Okoto just kind of dies, and then so does Moro. And they're like, the forest, and Jigo is like, the forest spirit took their life away. And one of the things what ends up happening next is, so Okoto and Moro are both dead at this point in time, and the forest spirit is looking up at the moon and is starting to change into the Night Walker. And Lady Eboshi turns to the hunters and says, "Watch closely, everyone. I'm going to show you how to kill a god. The trick is to not fear them." And she jumps out jumps out of the trees, and she's, getting her rifle ready to shoot at the forest god as it's changing into the Night Walker. And, forest spirit looks at her and, plants, the tree, the wood that's part of her rifle starts to, grow again to try to stop it from firing. And Ashitaka also throws his sword at her to make her stop, that it embeds itself in the rifle. And she's still a very determined woman, and she ends up firing, and the bullet goes through the bottom or the top of the neck, just under the head of the forest spirit as it's transforming. And the head falls, and the neck just kind of looks like it's, compressing, like just kind of like falling down, and there's this huge blackish goo that starts coming out, that starts spurting from it and just explodes all over the place, and it kills whatever it falls on and whatever it touches. And we see a bunch of the Kudama just falling from the trees as they die, as their trees die around them. And Ashitaka and San are in the water, and Lady Eboshi runs over and picks up the forest spirit's head, and tosses it to Jigo, who has like this iron box, metal box thing that he puts it in so they can carry the head away, because they have to keep the head away from the forest spirit, the Night Walker, long enough so that way it will die at sunrise. And then that will, I guess, stop death, because that's always a wonderful idea to do. Yes, completely stopping death forever is a wonderful idea. No, it's not. And so they're running, and what ends up happening is Moro's head kind of still, I guess, is not 100% dead, because it jumps up and it detaches itself from the body because of the black ooze, and it attacks Lady Eboshi, and it bites off her arm. It's like, she's like, "Yeah, see, I told you, cut off a wolf's head and it still has the power to bite you." It's like this proverb, I guess she was saying earlier on in the movie several times. And Gonza picks her up, because his loyalty is to Lady Eboshi, not to Jigo or the riflemen or anything like that. His loyalty is to Lady Eboshi in Irontown. And San and her brothers have made her, and her wolf brothers have made their way to the island. I think Yakul was left with the men from Irontown, was kept with them to keep Yakul safe. So he's with them. So the two wolves and San are on the little island thing where the forest spirit is from, where it's like little main island. And then Ashitaka is leading Gonza and Lady Eboshi, who is now kind of knocked out at this point in time, leading them to the island. And San is like, no, you can't bring her to this island. I will, cut her throat and end her life and everything like that. And she ends up ripping off the necklace, and she actually kind of ends up stabbing Ashitaka with the necklace. But Ashitaka does not have any anger at her for this and everything like that, because he just hugs her close and everything like that, and saying that despite everything, they can still live, or they're still alive, and they can still save the forest if she'll help him. And she agrees, San agrees. And while all of that was happening, the Night Walker form is getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and much less stable as than it was earlier on in the movie when we saw it. And it's like spreading out over the forest to try to find its head. And it's like killing so much of the forest in the process, because it's just draining away the life of anything that it touches. And it's making, it's like trying to find where its head went. So part of it is kind of following where Jigo is and everything. And, while this is happening, so much of the black ooze is just pouring all over the place. And we cut back to Irontown, where Toki and one of the lepers are talking, and Kuroku is just like asleep next to them, and Toki's like, don't ask me why I love him, he's a moron, but don't ask me why I love him, type of a thing. And they've defended Irontown well, but they've had to like fall back to like the inner walls, because there's like so much damage has already been done by the samurai. And over one of the ridges comes the Night Walker, and all the black goo that just keeps coming and just like spreading out further and further and further, killing everything in its path, including the samurai and everything like that. And Ashitaka and San are riding the wolves, and they keep managing to just miss the goo as it's coming down. And Ashitaka runs and yells a warning to Toki and the others, and saying, you have to get into the, all of that goo is coming. The forest spirit has had his head cut off, and now he wants it back, and it's killing everything in its path and everything like that. And you need to get out of the town now, and you need to get into the water, because the water slows it down. The men with Lady Eboshi are coming from the other side of the lake, and we're gonna go try to return the forest spirit's head. And so Toki is just like gathering everybody up, and they're trying to get out of the town and everything like that. Goo comes in, knocks some of them off. Goo gets into the town and is, slowly destroying everything in the town, and, ends up, smothering the ironworks and everything like that. And they are in the water, watching as this happen, as the forge goes out and everything like that. And Ashitaka and San and the two wolves are, of course, catching up with Jigo and his men and everything like that, and trying to convince Jigo that he needs to return the head, that it needs to be returned by human hands, because of the damage that was done. And that's the only way to solve this, or the only way to fix this. And Jigo tries to point out that it's almost sunrise. If we wait till sunrise, and that thing is just going to die, and it's not going to be a problem anymore. And San and Ashitaka are not taking that, and Ashitaka ends up fighting against Jigo, who, is actually quite spry for what he is. And then San fights against one of the other monk things that are there, or not the monks, one of the other mercenaries that are there. And they do manage to eventually convince, basically because his own life's at stake at that point in time, get Jigo to unlock the box. And then San and Ashitaka are like, human hands must return it. And they're the ones that pick the head up out of the box and are, showing it to the forest spirit. And while this is happening, all over both of them are the same marks that have been over Ashitaka's arm and spreading over his body throughout the course of the movie. They get all over San as well. And they're holding the head up to return it, and they're shouting out to the forest spirit. It's like, forest spirit, we return your head. Please, take this as appeasement for the wrong that was committed against you and everything like that. And, the Nightwalker goo stuff that's part of his body just kind of like comes together and, comes down on top of them, and, huge amount of, bright light coming off of, as it's reconnected with its head and everything like that. And, while this is happening, the forest spirit is able to, the night walker is able to kind of fully reform itself, but now it's dawn. And it's like just in time. And what ends up happening is, the people from the village are watching as this is happening and everything. And the night walker ends up falling off of one of the ridges, and it lands on Irontown and just kind of like billows out and explodes. And like just explodes all across the lake. And they're all just like watching as this is happening. And it like kind of, it doesn't quite go silent, but it goes very quiet. And as you watch along the cliffs and the ridges and everything like that, you watch as the green kind of starts to come back, like grass is growing again and the flowers are starting to grow again slowly, and like over Irontown, like all the grass and everything like that is regrowing in Irontown, and all the other ridges and cliffs and hillsides and everything like that around Irontown and around the lake and around the forest and everything like that. And they're all watching as this is happening. And then, Lady Eboshi and the men and Gonza show back up. And, like, so all of the people from Irontown are reunited. And, they're just watching as all of this has, happened and everything. And, we, all of this is, taken care of, and everybody from the town are, like, looking at themselves like the lepers, like their leprosy is healed, and like Kuroku's arm is healed, and anybody else that had an injury is healed. Lady Eboshi does not get her arm back, but that was a different story. But like the other injuries are all healed and everything like that. And they're just like looking around at everything, and like all the the ones from Lord Osano's camp are all dead and everything like that. So they're not there anymore. And we cut to where we see Yakul walking through the grass to where, the giant rock where San and Ashitaka had returned the head. And we see the two wolves sitting there and like the rusted out box behind them. And Yakul looks down into the grass, and he finds, and that's where Ashitaka and San are wrapped around each other. And he like nibbles on Ashitaka's hair to get Ashitaka to wake up, which is adorable. And they wake up, and they're all, and they look around, and they see that, yes, there was all of that damage done, but now it has the chance to grow back. And San's like, even if it grows back, it won't be his forest anymore. All of it was dead. And Ashitaka is like, no, the forest spirit isn't gone. The forest spirit is life itself. And, eventually it, if, they're like talking about like what they're going to do. And, Ashitaka explains that he's going to go back to Irontown and help them rebuild it and make it better, and hopefully make it that they have a better, relationship with the nature, with the forest around them and everything like that, to hopefully just, make that better. And San is like, I can't go with you. I can't go. I still hate humans and everything like that. She can't forgive them for what they've done to her and her mother and the forest and everything like that. But she doesn't hate Ashitaka. And he's like, I understand that, but like I'll still come and visit you in the forest and everything like that. And, it's like he'll help rebuild the, Irontown so it can live alongside the forest and everything like that. And that he'll visit her often and everything like that. And San departs with her brothers to head back into the forest and everything. And we cut to Lady Eboshi, who is recovering within the ruins of Irontown with all of the men and women around her. And she's like, someone needs to find Ashitaka. I need to thank him. And everything. So, we're going to make Irontown better, than it was before and everything. And then we cut to where, Jigo is just perched on a different rock, with the one remaining, person that was working for him is one remaining lackey. And he's like, well, I give up. You can't win against fools. Yeah. And then we cut to where the forest spirit's pool was, and we kind of like, you know, go down through the trees, the fallen trees and everything like that that now have new growth on them. And we cut through that, and we cut to where, you know, this one little Kudama shows up, and it starts rattling its head. So it's like the cycle begins again. And that's very reminiscent of at the end of Nausicaa of the Valley of the Wind, where at the bottom of, you know, the petrified forest area where, like, you know, the trees are being purified and everything like that, and there's sand everywhere, where we see Nausicaa's helmet and a little sprout growing again. So it's like, you know, life will continue. It's like life always finds a way is, of course, kind of what that's referencing. So I believe that is mostly it, but I do have to go over the casting. So in the English dub, Ashitaka is played by Billy Crudup, who I do not know. Jigo is Billy Bob Thornton. So Bad Santa, I guess. Lady Eboshi is Minnie Driver. Gonzo is John DiMaggio, so Bender from Futurama. San is Claire Danes. Kuroko is John Demita, who I do not recognize off the top of my head. Toki is Jada Pinkett Smith. Moro is Gillian Anderson, who I do believe is X-Files, maybe. And then Lord Okoto is Keith David, who is also the narrator of the movie. He is, of course, Goliath from Gargoyles, which I adore. So that's the main bit. There's, you know, other voices and stuff like that that pop up throughout the movie, but those are the main ones. I do love this movie. I love again, as I've stated before, I will forever today be amazed by what is done with hand-drawn animation for all of this. And I know parts of it might be done a little bit with like computer animation here and there, but the majority of this is done with hand-drawn animation, and it's gorgeous, and I love it. I do love this movie. I love all the Miyazaki movies. What can I say? All the ones I've seen, I love. But you know, this one, the wolves now just make me think of Rainy, and that just kind of makes me sad. Not that I don't love Brenda, because I love my baby girl, and she's a good baby girl. But that's what I have for this. The next one I do believe should be Spirited Away, if I've planned that correct for this. If I'm remembering correctly, I do believe it is Spirited Away. It's the next Miyazaki movie, or the next Studio Ghibli movie that I will be reviewing. So that's what I have. I thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope you have a nice rest of your day. Bye!